thanks for joining us for this special episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and we are back at Lake of the Woods in Mahomet. Now, if you remember, we were here earlier in the spring. We hung out with site supervisor and one of our panelists, Rusty Maulding, and he showed us this new pollinator bed that they put in full of native plants. So we came back toward the end of the summer to see how things were growing. See what I did there? Let's get an update. Well, Rusty, thanks so much for letting us come back. It's a beautiful morning so far. It's going to be a hot one today.
It's going to be a hot one.
That's why we scheduled this shoot in the morning. So we came out earlier in the spring and we looked at this exact bed that you guys put in, native plants.
Yeah.
And now I thought it would be a cool idea to come back towards the end of the summer and see how it did, what lessons you learned, what did well, what didn't do so well, and just kind of show people the progression of a new flower bed and how it kind of grows in and what it looks like.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we have lots of things that we can talk about here today.
Okay.
So let's start in on what's sort of underneath our feet right now.
Yeah, I noticed the crunching when we walked up.
So every time you do a new installation under an existing tree, you're oftentimes going to be damaging the roots. So this particular hackberry above us did suffer some root injury. We had some mechanical removal of some soil that also kind of added to that, and we're in a dry period right now. And so what's happening is we're getting some early senescence, some early leaf drop. That's a stress response.
Interesting.
We have not watered this at all this year until yesterday. So in response to this, one of the best things that you can do is go out and water. Don't focus on fertilization, just strictly water and mulch and doing some of those cultural practices that are sort of in best practices for plant care.
Gotcha. I noticed that, and I noticed that they weren't like autumn color, they were just fallen leaves.
They just straight up fell off because the tree said, hey, you know what, I don't have enough water to keep and support these leaves.
Interesting.
And so the benefit of the food production they're doing was outweighed by the lack of water to keep it viable.
So if you are putting in beds or installing things under a tree, expect this, is what you're saying, if you disturb the root system?
So this happened to one, well, I guess it did happen a little bit to the other two as well. This one a little bit more acutely. So you can anticipate a little bit. We also did a lot of plugging here. We were plugging about once every 15 inches or maybe 12 inches.
Gotcha.
And we did some soil removal. So there was definitely, it was invasive.
Gotcha.
Normal planting, you won't see quite this response, but you can expect a little bit of leaf loss early.
And does that create competition, I'm assuming, between everyone trying to vie for a drink here?
You know, it's actually a little bit more resembles what would happen in nature. Because typically you go out into the woods and you don't see trees with just nothing around them. So it's actually kind of restoring a balance.
Gotcha.
So a native planting under a tree is way better than turf.
Got it. Noted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And speaking of natives, this was intentional. This median bed here are almost all native plants.
Correct.
Which ties into what we've been talking about. You've got the Native Plants of the Midwest book.
Yeah.
And that's got 500 native species in it. And are all 500 in this median? You said you did a lot of plugging.
We did a lot of plugging, and some people would say this is species rich.
Nice.
But we didn't get 500 in.
Nice.
No, one of the things I really like about this book is he does a nice job of setting it up by sort of ecosystem. So there's a woodland area, which is going to speak to kind of the plants in this space, and then there's a prairie area, which is going to speak to the plants in the full sun area here right next to us.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the progress that you've seen this summer.
Yeah. So one of the things that most gardeners are after is what do I plant in dry shade? And so you know, the native Illinois plantscape, if you will, has some solutions. We ended up finding or using this zigzag goldenrod. Zigzag is kind of in reference to the nature of how the stem will oscillate back and forth or create a zigzag. It's a great ID feature. This is a zigzag goldenrod, and unlike it gets a bad rap occasionally as being aggressive and also causing hay fever. It can be aggressive with certain species. This one is not. This one is very tame. It does a great job in shade, only gets to be about 2 to 3 feet tall, and stays put fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the chief benefits of goldenrod is it's a late season nectar and pollen feeder. For all of the pollinators and insects that come through that rely on that. And this is really the thing that kind of helps get them through the winter.
Gotcha.
Or get them to their final destination if they're migratory like the monarchs say.
It's one of the last food sources that they'll have left.
Right,
This
exactly.
is gorgeous too. It's a
Yes.
pretty dainty little flower.
So that's another one. It's shorty eyes aster or shorts aster.
Okay.
Does really, really well in a shady and dry location. This guy's going to do a little bit better probably if it has a little bit more moisture, but the shorts aster, straight up dry shade, it's going to do well. These are 1-year plugs. So we installed these almost a year ago, well, in like a couple of weeks. So what you're seeing next year will be a lot more robust. We're just a little early on the flowering time. We're sort of late August, early September is whenever they just start to get going, and then they'll flower reliably for the next month.
And everything we plant doesn't always take off. That's just the way it goes. Is there anything that you put in this shady bed that perhaps didn't work and maybe you'll try something different next year? Or, I think it's important for people to know that everything you plant is not always going to make it.
Sure. No, absolutely. There was a species of aster. It was oblongifolium, and I apologize. I'm not going to remember the common name.
That's all right.
But we planted that in sort of this area over here to our left. And upon my inspection today, we only found 2.
That happens.
So that's part of the reason why whenever you're planting native spaces, getting a right mix, sometimes things do really well, and sometimes things maybe get out-competed or just aren't as happy in those spaces. And so you plant a broad spectrum, and it's survival of the fittest a little bit.
Okay. So now we move into one of the sunny sections.
Sure.
This has filled in a lot in the past few months.
It has. This has really done well. The whole thing is exceeded my expectations.
Nice.
This was planted last May, or a year ago last May, so it's had 2 summers now. And this showy black-eyed Susan it is doing what it says. It's showing. And we've got some nice liatris behind here. There are in and amongst all of this some various sedges and grasses. So there's some little blue stem. There is some sporobolus or prairie dropseed that's in here. It's all kind of helping hold everything up. And so it's not all showy right now. And that's part of the goal, right? When we visited and talked this spring or early summer, we had quite a bit that was showing.
Yes.
3-4 months later, we still have lots of great things that are in color. It's just different.
And that's the idea, right? To keep something in bloom
Absolutely.
at all times, to have something to look at. Would you consider this established? Is this bed, or would you add more to it?
No, this bed right now is what I would consider established. I was considering trying to plug in a few additional things in the shady areas. But I think I'm just going to let that go. The plant per square foot is about right. It just needs a little time to grow.
Just needs some time to fill in. That's the patience we talked about of letting the beds develop. What worked really well in here? Is there anything besides the black-eyed Susan?
Sure.
But what else worked really well in this bed?
Early season, we had a lot of penstemon,
yes, I remember.
Beard's tongue. That did really well. The liatris has done well. There's another plant. It's back up in here. I'm going to try to find one. As I'm on the move, try to find one that's in flower. Well, I'm not finding one.
Not finding one? All right.
This is the stiff goldenrod. And this is going to have kind of a flat flower. It's not quite there just yet. There's just a few peeking up here and there. Another goldenrod family. This one of the things that Brannigan said in his book is that this should not be planted in fertile garden soil because it will self-sow. So it does like competition. That will help keep it at bay. And also, don't amend your soils. Or if you've got a clay patch or a sandy vein, this is a very adaptable goldenrod, and that will also help kind of keep it at bay. So this is another great one that it's not as aggressive as some of the goldenrod is that people fear.
Don't make the environment too hospitable.
That's right. That's right. The echinacea, one of the things that we saw earlier, these are the seed heads from the purple coneflower. We saw some goldfinches feeding on those before we were getting ready for this shoot.
Yes.
So that's always a welcome addition to anybody's garden, I think.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And then, so as far as maintenance goes, when a frost comes through, or when will you cut this down? Will you leave it? How do you maintain a native flower bed?
Sure. If this is at my house, I'm going to wait until spring.
Oh.
And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut most things back to about a foot.
Okay.
And some of these stems you can see are rather large. And what that's going to do is if it's has a hole down the center, if the pith is hollow, that will create a natural nesting spot for some of our native bees for next fall.
Nice.
So if you leave those, that then becomes an overwintering spot for some of our native insects.
That's bringing it totally full circle, right? Because we're
is.
attracting the pollinators, creating that environment for them, and now they've got a place to overwinter.
Yeah, absolutely. If this is at the front of your house and maybe you've got a shorter version of this, you can do it like in November or December.
Okay.
You know, that's perfectly acceptable. It really becomes down to an aesthetic taste.
Gotcha.
I would prefer that you try to cut back again about a foot high, and that again you're creating some ground. You're leaving the material on the ground, creating some overwintering space. Leave the foliage though.
Okay. Now I asked Alan this on our interview, and I'll ask you as well.
Yeah.
When people say, "Oh, natives they're not real showy. They don't do it for me," what is your response to that?
I mean, come on. Not all natives are showy. Not all ornamentals are showy. They all have their own unique niche, and it's at different times of year. And it really is a matter of finding something that's going to fit your aesthetic preference. I think any of these can be showy,
for sure,
better in context than all alone. A lot of times, I think one of the departures from native landscaping, I should say from ornamental, strictly like traditional gardening, is that in there you tend to have more sweeps and large masses. Natives, certain ones will lend themselves to that, others do not.
All right, Rusty, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for letting us come out. And I hope that you got some use out of that book. You said that you were familiar with it before I even brought it up.
I was. Some of my staff have this in their personal collection, and I'm looking at getting a copy for our staff collection there at the office.
Well, you might just have to call in.
Yeah.
There you go. Become a friend.
Become a friend.
All right, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Summertime, get ready, we are so divine. Blue water and yellow sand, just you and me.
I'm Erin the Major Gifts Director at Illinois Public Media, and with me today is Amanda Hill, our membership manager.
Hi.
And as you notice, we're not in the studio today.
Yay.
We are on location. This is the first time
ever
that we've been out of the studio
for me. Yes.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
They let us out occasionally,
Yes,
I promise you. But we're in Lake of the Woods in Mahomet, and it's a gorgeous location.
Beautiful day.
Surrounded by beautiful wildflowers, native flowers to the Midwest. What a great place to be on a beautiful, beautiful morning.
Gorgeous. I'm so happy to be out here.
Yeah.
I got to remember this too. That's like, come out here and go hiking or something. This is like a gorgeous area. So happy to be here. It was so cool. We just heard from Rusty and Tanisha. I mean, these flowers are gorgeous. I really want to pick some for my home kitchen, but I won't. We'll play it cool.
I always say this every time we're on a fun drive for Mid-American Gardener. I'm going to plant a native garden.
I know.
But I really mean it this time. I'm definitely going to do it.
I feel very motivated today. Yes. We'll see how that turns out. We often joke we have not green thumbs.
Right.
So, maybe one of these days.
Yeah.
It's getting greener as we go.
And we're learning so much here with Tanisha and Rusty on location at Lake of the Woods. And WILL and PBS have such a long history of educational programming. It's one of the pillars of the WILL stations for over 102 years now.
And this show 40 years in running, I believe, in particular.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
cool.
Mid-American Gardener is only just one of the high-quality educational programs that you can find across all WILL stations. And each week, a panelist of gardeners will come into your home and talk to you about gardening and answering your gardening questions. And they present all kinds of information on our region and zone so that you have everything you need to help your garden grow. And
such information, even insects and, you know, where to plant and what to plant, what kind. I mean, they've really covered it all.
They do cover everything, not just gardening,
very
but
informational.
environment as a whole, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so today, as we said, we're out here learning about native plants of the Midwest and the impact and the importance they have on our local environment. So if you would like to support Mid-American Gardener and other programs like this on the WILO stations, give us a call, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org.
And if you've never been a member before, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you as a friend of WILL. The best way to join is as a sustainer. You'll make ongoing monthly donations. You can decide what amount's comfortable for you. Maybe that's $5 a month, $10, $20, whatever works, and then decide how you want to pay. We like EFT. We feel like that's the most secure, directly from your bank account. But of course, credit card monthly payments are great. If you work for the university, payroll deductions, that's what Erin and I do. So that's really easy too. And of course, we'll take a good old fashioned check. Any way you want to give, we'll take it. And it just really ensures future programming. It's really just a great way to give, gives back that way as well. So we'd love to hear from you today, 217-244-9455. Thank you, or willgive.org. And we always have these amazing thank you gifts to give. This book is, you're going to hear from the author coming up soon. We're so excited. $10 a month. Get this amazing book. It's a perfect gift for the gardener you love or just for yourself. We have the amazing, adorable Mid-American Gardener mugs. I'm sure you've all seen by now. That's just $7 a month or a one-time donation of $84. Perfect for your morning coffee or tea. And of course, if you'd like to do both, that's $15 a month or a one-time donation of $180. Get your book, get your mug. You'll be all set for that morning coffee while reading about all your plants, like these beautiful native plants. So give us a call, 217-244-9455. Go online to willgive.org. We'd love to hear from you today.
And shows like this, Mid-American Gardener is just one part of our lineup of locally produced shows. A lot of them are produced in our studio or sometimes on location like we are right now. So your gift today supports Mid-American Gardener and supports all the other WILL and PBS shows that you have come to rely on that give you great information and are entertaining for you. And you can learn so much about your world, about your local community, about the environment. So your gift today will help support that, and you can invest in our Learning First mission here at Illinois Public Media. So we hope you join us. We hope you join other donors in making that gift right now for Mid-American Gardener and other programs, 217-244-9455, or you can go online at willgive.org. And please stay tuned because we have the author of this wonderful book coming up,
Alan Brandhagen.
Tanisha will sit down with him in just a few minutes for a great interview. You're going to learn all about him and how he
What a great guy.
Yeah, and how he
wealth of knowledge.
So much knowledge, but also how he kind of became interested in wildlife and the local flowers, which kind of resonates with me a little bit.
Absolutely, yes.
So stay tuned, but also go to the phones, go to your computer or your phone, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. And thanks so much for tuning in and your gift tonight.
And now we have a very special treat for you. I am joined by Alan Brandhagen. You may not know him, but you know of his books because we have them on the show all the time. We've got this one today, trying to get out of the glare, the Native Plants of the Midwest book. We talk about the primer as well. So this is the man behind the book. So tell us a little bit about you, introduce yourself, and how did you become a plant person?
Hi, Tanisha. Thank you for having me today. I'm the executive director of the Natural Land Institute up in Rockford, Illinois. And if you didn't know, the Natural Land Institute was the first land trust in Illinois. And our founder was also one of the founders of the of the Nature Conservancy, which is, really well known. How did I get interested in plants? I think it goes back to my childhood. My mom took us kids. I'm, from a family of 4 on hikes in local parks. I grew up in Decorah, Iowa, and I remember hiking in this one wooded park, Will Baker Park, and seeing Dutchman's breeches, and her showing me that flower. And each flower is like a little pants and hanging upside down, and it's just little things like that made me really interested in plants, though I also love butterflies and birds. I have to add that. Butterflies, birds, and botany, the 3 Bs.
The 3 Bs, absolutely. So that's when you got bit by the bug, right?
That's when I got bit by the botany bug, yes.
The botany bug. Now, professionally, tell us a little bit about where your career has taken you.
Yeah, I went to undergraduate school in Ames, Iowa, at Iowa State University, and got a degree in landscape architecture, and had an amazing professor there, Bob Dias, who really promoted native plants. After that, I went to get my master's degree at Louisiana State University down in Baton Rouge. I took a detour. Really, I got an amazing assistantship there that covered my cost of living and tuition. So that was really helpful. And it's one of the
Too
top
bad.
4 schools in landscape architecture. And while at LSU, I knew I wanted to come back to the Midwest. I just love, grew up here. I don't know, my inner being is tied to what goes on in the Midwest. And so I was looking at job opportunities, and here's this job opportunity in Rockford, Illinois, working for the Winnebago County Forest Preserve District. And it was doing, preserve development and land management and, all the types of things that I really loved. And I applied actually, first of all, it's like, well, where the heck is Winnebago County, Illinois? And I went into the library at LSU. I hope this isn't too long of a story, but
it's okay.
And here in the library is the book "The Flora of Winnebago County, Illinois" by Egbert Fell. And I read that book, and I'm like, wow, that county has a really diverse flora and really unique river systems and all this history of land protection. I want to go and interview, and I did, and I got the job, and I accepted it. I moved back to the Midwest, to Rockford,
And the
Illinois.
rest is history, right?
Yeah, and then I left for 27 years, and now I'm back. I've been back a year. So,
it just keeps calling you back, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your books, because this is a book. This isn't a coffee table paperback. This is a comprehensive. What is it? 500 species. How does one go from having this passion about something to creating a giant book? Because this had to have been a labor, right? I mean, this is a lot of work. So what moved you to want to put this out there for people to understand and to know more about native plants?
Well, again, I have that passion for the Midwest, and I think, we're kind of flyover country, and we don't know the beauty that's in our own backyard. And I've been gardening ever since I was a wee one. So in Iowa, and, a little bit in Louisiana, though, as a grad student, and of course in Rockford, and then Kansas City, and then the Twin Cities, and back to Rockford. So I've been all over the Midwest, and always visiting different natural areas, and just inspired by all those things. And I thought, I want to just share all my experiences with gardening to hopefully inspire people to grow more native plants and understand the importance of growing more native plants.
Now, we hear a lot of people say, I don't really look for natives, or I'm not drawn to natives because they're not as showy, or they're not as bright colored or interesting to look at. And I'm sure you disagree with that. So what do you say to people who come up and say, I don't know, natives, they're just uninteresting?
I completely hear that a lot. I think a lot of it also relates back to the Midwest has the smallest amount of natural areas remaining.
Wow.
Most people have never even been to a high quality remnant prairie to see the spectacle that is there right now, with all the sunflowers and blazing stars and all these things blooming. I mean, they can be spectacular. So a lot of people just miss what they're about. And I hope I brought that back to them. I think the quote in my book is from Eloise Butler, who was actually one of the first native plant people. In fact, the oldest native plant garden in the whole United States is in Minneapolis. And she was way ahead of her time, and she had traveled even to the tropics. But when she saw the prairies outside Minneapolis, said they are more colorful and beautiful than anything she'd seen in the tropics. So if people just got out there and saw that, I think they'd be inspired to put these plants in.
Interesting. That's a very, very unique perspective.
Yeah.
And you talk about designing with natives in here as well. We've had some folks on our show that the last few years that has really been a hot topic is let's introduce some of these back into our landscape. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I I wrote this from a gardener's perspective, and yeah, some of these native plants are, they kind of run, or we don't know how to use them. We don't know how to, some of them are more aggressive or seed in because they're meant to be here. That's, and gardeners like things to just stay put, where I planted it, I want to stay there. So yeah, design is learning how to put these together. And for each section of the book, like the trees, the, understory trees, the perennials and so on, I have at the beginning a little piece that talks about maybe the best dozen that are the most garden worthy for a traditional landscape, so that people can know where to start with the ones that are really, really well behaved and act like the traditional perennials, so that they kind of can build off that.
Very nice. So you even give us the blueprint of where to start.
Yeah, I hope so.
Like that. And we can't not talk about native plants and pollinators without talking about the greater issue of pollinators, our monarchs, and some of those things that are unique to Illinois and things that we enjoy. Did you come at this with a environmental sort of perspective as well?
Yeah, I hope people got that. I think that's because, I said it's not just botany for me, it's butterflies and birds. And even as a boy, making those connections. I mean, I was writing down the plants that attracted butterflies way before any books really published that. And that's really the part that really inspired me to get this out there, is because these are all the building blocks of nature. These things have co-evolved with each other. They need each other. And then, of course, we ultimately need them if we want clean air and clean water. And even a lot of the plants we grow, need pollinators. Luckily, we don't have to hire someone to pollinate apple trees in the Midwest, for an example. So just hopefully people make that connection. And I really try to write about that. If there are specific insects or birds tied to a plant, really try to make those connections.
Excellent. Can we expect any future works? Do you have anything in the pipeline? Not that, this isn't enough.
Part of me wants to do the rest of the story. 500 is a lot, right? And, it was hard for me to whittle it down. And sometimes it might be kind of fun to do, here's some other really good ones that didn't make the first cut. And then, of course, we did the second book was really because the 500 is intimidating for a lot of people. And we did it so that the Midwest Native Plant Primer, just to really more address the average homeowner. And so it wasn't quite as intimidating. So.
Gotcha. Excellent. Last question, and then I'll let you go. What is your favorite native plant?
Oh, you would do that. Besides the one in
I saved the best one for last.
Yeah. Probably, trees are the most important of all the plants because they have the biggest biomass and can make the biggest impact on your local environment. So I would pick Illinois state tree, the white oak. It just becomes a magnificent long-lived tree. Everyone should plant one somewhere because it just really is one of the building blocks of nature in the Midwest. Has more diversity of insects feeding on it than anything else. And of course, the acorns, the mast crop in the fall that it produces, feeds so much that it is, and of course, it sequesters carbon for a long time because it can live for 400 years. So long answer, white oak.
White oak. Thank you so much for your time. I could sit here on this Zoom with you for hours because we're speaking the same language. Thank you so much for your passion and for turning that into these lovely books. We can't keep them here. Every time we offer them, they sell out immediately. So you are doing good work here in Central Illinois, and we really thank you. So, Alan, we appreciate it.
You are very welcome.
Summertime, get ready, we are so divine. Blue water and yellow sand. Let's live our dream. Summertime.
Hey,
we're back. That was so amazing hearing from Alan Branhagen. I have to tell you, I took a shot emailing him. I thought there's no way this guy is going to email back. Not because he's not a nice guy, just, who does that? And he wrote back immediately. I was thrilled. We cannot keep these books on our shelves. And for you true fans, we had an earlier version that he was an author of as well. Had that for years. We thought we'd mix it up for our loyal fans, give them something new, and now these are flying off the shelf. So that was so great. I think what a wealth of knowledge he was. Such a nice guy. I wish we could have met him in person, but the Zooms feel very personal these days.
I love the story of how he got. And I referenced this earlier, how he got interested, like going on hikes with his mom.
So
and that just reminded me of spending time with my grandparents out in nature and going camping. And so that was like really brought back a lot of the memories.
A relatable story like that. His little pants flower, whatever. That was so cute.
Very cute.
Yeah, I just thought he was so great. He made me even think about like the white oak, so I'm not super into plants or anything as much as I should be, but wow, like now I'm going to look at these trees in a different way. Just everything that they provide, I hadn't even thought about.
Yes, I mean, the whole ecosystems in one tree.
Yeah, the bugs it helps, the carbon it produces. I mean, just everything. It is 3 Bs, birds, botany, butterflies. I love butterflies too. So you like bees. I feel like you could have a fourth bee because you like bees.
I do like the bees. Love the pollinators. Butterflies are part of that pollinating system, but the bees are too.
What a great guy. I can't thank you enough, Alan Branhagen, for doing this for us. And I feel like they had a nice connection that we might be able to see him more in the future. I mean, that would be cool. He's not too far, Northern Illinois, so maybe. But anyway, it's great.
It's a great interview. We're really happy that you have joined us today for Mid-American Gardener, where we are out in Lake of the Woods, the gorgeous Lake of the Woods in Mahomet. And public media is known for programming like this. We provide reliable, in-depth reporting on national, international, and local issues. We provide a platform for artists. We celebrate our cultural heritage, and we give a voice to the community. We highlight local issues and local challenges. But despite all of this importance, public media is still under constant financial pressure. So your donation today is crucial to help us continue providing and producing the high quality programming that you rely on, the programming that connects you to this reliable information that you look for. Educational programming, entertaining programming, musical programming, arts programming, all of that you can find here on Illinois Public Media across all WILL stations. And your gift today supports that. So I hope you'll consider giving us a gift, joining the thousands of other WILL Illinois Public Media supporters in making a donation. And together, we are stronger. So give us a call today, 217-244-9455. Go online and make that gift at willgive.org as well.
Yeah, we are so grateful to all the friends of WILL that we have. Some of you are already giving that $5, $7, $6, $10, any amount. Maybe now is the time that you could think about maybe increasing by a few dollars here and there. Every little bit does help. Maybe you're giving $5 already. Increase that to $7 and get that Mid-American Gardener mug, or $10 and get this amazing book. Every little bit helps. If you aren't able to increase, that's fine. Even that $5 level a month, you get the passport benefit, which I'm sorry, but there's no better deal in town.
That is
you think of all the streaming services out there, there's none that are $5 a month. So think of all the thousands of PBS shows. It's fun for new people. You go back and binge old favorites or all the new content we're constantly bringing. You can watch old reruns of Mid-American Gardener even.
So
absolutely. It's just a great benefit to have. You also get that Patterns magazine that everybody loves. It's fun mail. It's information, tells you what's on the radio, what's on TV, what's going on at our station. So it's really worth that $5 a month. So if you're able to, give us a call. We know not everybody is, and that's okay, and that's why we're here. It's free for all. But those that can, we really appreciate it. 217-244-9455. Or you can go online to willgive.org.
And there are other ways, of course, to make a lasting impact on the stations. If now is a good time for you, please consider joining our leadership level of givers. These are donors giving $500 or more a year. And there's some extra benefits involved there. Of course, you get passport and Patterns, but you'll get invites to special exclusive events at the station. You'll get sneak peeks at upcoming shows. Sometimes we've got tickets that we will make available to our leadership level donors first. So lots of great things to do. Plus, you turn on any WILL station, you can see your donation at work right there in front of you. So if now's a good time for any donation, please give us a call, 217-244-9455, or go online at willgive.org. Raise that sustaining gift, become a sustainer for the first time, or if you can, join our leadership level of donors, 217-244-9455, or go online to willgive.org. And we thank you, as always, for your support of Mid-American Gardener and PBS.
lot about plants on this show, but not a lot about plant waste unless we're talking about compost. That's until we met some really fascinating people who take agricultural waste and turn it into art. Take a look.
My name is Eric Benson. I'm an associate professor of graphic design here at the School of Art and Design, University of Illinois. And Fresh Press is a studio I started 12 years ago. And here we make paper by hand out of agricultural waste from the local area. We don't use trees, that's the big thing. And instead we kind of went back in time, right, in terms of how people made paper back in the day. So we're using agriculture. So we work with the student farm here and we're getting things like corn, rye, hemp, prairie grass. And we follow a very similar process to commercial paper making, right?
Interesting.
And it's on the back wall here. You can see the whole way it's done. It's just that we do it by hand. Get the stuff from the field, the harvest, you might want to call it, and we have to chip it down. Once we chip it, we can cook it, and that makes it, more malleable, and we can put it in our beater here. And then we go through the pulling and pressing and drying process.
Okay, so now we're at the third step, which is beating, pulp the fibers, and we're here with Meredith and E, both studio managers here. So tell us a little bit about this step and what we're going to be doing and why it's important in the process.
Okay, so we've already chipped and cooked this miscanthus, which is a prairie grass, and we're going to use a Hollander beater, which macerates the pulp. It macerates the fiber and turns it into a pulp by using this, it's like a water wheel of blades. It'll spin around and move the miscanthus through the machine for about, I think 2 hours gets us a really nice paper. So what it's doing is opening up the fibers. They've already been cooked for 3 hours. So that opens up the cellulose fibers and allows the papers to adhere to each other. And this is going to beat them to a pulp.
Literally.
And, yes, literally, that's what's happening here.
Now it's my turn. I put on my boots, gloves, and apron and gave it a shot. Let's make some paper. Okay, so we just finished the beating, and now we're gonna actually pull sheets of paper from this.
Yes, so you're gonna take a mold and deckle. You might have heard like fancy paper has a deckled edge. This is the tool that gives you that deckled edge. So you'll hold these in your hand and dunk them into the vat at a 45-degree angle, and then pull it straight up. And you do the little shimmy, kind of like you're panning for, yes. Okay. But first you want to hog the vat. Okay. So you spread your fingers wide and bring them down to the bottom and shake everything up so that the fibers are evenly suspended.
Now let's see if I can get this one. So we're gonna scoop toward me.
Yeah.
All right.
And just dunk it in and pull it right up and give it a little shake as the water drains. That was good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, all right. After twisting their arms just a little, Taylor and DJ agreed to step in front of the camera to try their hand at paper making.
Nice. I don't know, Tanisha, she might have you beat. Nice, that looks really good. Bravo, bravo.
Once you pull your sheet of paper, you can really get creative and make it your own, adding flowers, dyed pulp, and even a pattern to give it some edge. Are people surprised with all that you can do?
I think so. I think so, yeah. There's always gasps of joy that happen in workshops because I think that we're missing a lot of this analog, being in touch with making and slowing down. So yeah, this is a moment that can bring us back in touch with that. I also think that it's a very accessible art making technique because you could do it at home with a dumpy blender from Goodwill, or you could do it here with this Hollander beater, but also you can approach it and never have done it before and succeed in doing something in just one workshop. Or you can add a lot more chemistry and do something very specific.
And now we press. So Eric, you join us again for the final step. So after you press all the water out, you bring them back here and then tell us what happens.
So we will take the wet sheets and we will layer them on these blotters and stack them up, and we'll end up putting them into the dry box where there's some fans, and that air and these cotton blotters will soak the water out, and then you can have a finished sheet.
And that's the finished sheet. Now how long does that take? Once it's in the drying box, how long does it have to stay in there?
I would say a good average would be like 12 hours.
What made you want to get into this? What brought in the farm waste, the agricultural waste? How did these two ideas come together for you?
Well, I think it was just living in Illinois, right? I moved here from Austin, Texas, and how do I adjust to living in the Midwest? And so driving down the highway, I-57 up to Chicago, right, you see corn and soybeans and prairie grass, right? So I just started to embrace the land, and that led me here.
Okay, so this is your studio, right, E? And I'm looking here at all the paper here. This looks familiar. Looks like kind of what we just did.
It is.
The pulp painting. And you were talking earlier about how you incorporate a lot of this paper, a lot of these elements into your own art. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is the pulp painting technique that we were doing earlier, just with a larger grid. And then I bring it into these sculptural collages. And I also incorporate, so this is handmade paper and a little bit of pigmented paper from printmaking. And these scraps that I find, these are like pieces of graffiti I've peeled off of a building, other found objects like rocks. So I'm really interested in including the found objects with the paper that's also made of all of these other materials.
What is your long-term hope for this? You know, what's the dream here?
I'd love to replace tree fiber paper with the type of paper that we're making. That's a big goal, but in the meantime, I feel like I'm a community engaged scholar where I invite the community to the studio and I teach them about land stewardship and paper making.
Guys, we had so much fun at the studio. So here is the finished product. Check it out.
I love
We
it.
made this out of farm waste.
So cool. So impressive.
And it's just like when you slow down and you make this and it's like your sheet of paper, you take better care of it. And the conservation sort of comes in. So it was so much fun. Thanks to E and Meredith and Eric for letting us stop by Fresh Press.
These are beautiful.
It does. Makes me want to like get back into stationery. When I was a kid, I was obsessed. I had pen pals. I love stationery. Like if I made it myself, I feel like I'd probably be more mindful of who's getting my very important letters. Yeah, I would love to go to a workshop.
We need to sign up for a workshop.
Yes, we're all about now getting out of the studio, right, Erin?
Yes.
So take us next time, okay?
Now we've been on location. We got a feel for it.
Yeah.
We're gonna always want to be
Absolutely.
outside.
Like, bring us with, guys. Yeah.
It's so much
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, these are the types of things that you can learn about on our WIL TV station. with Mid-American Gardener and with Tanisha and her team and the crew behind the camera that you maybe don't get a chance to see too often. But your donation tonight supports all of this, supports all of the programming on WILL across the Illinois Public Media family of stations and websites and digital platforms. And we hope you give us a call tonight, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for braving the heat and
This
giving
is
us.
so fun.
This is our wheelhouse.
Yes,
so thank you for
I know.
joining us
Thank
today.
you for having us. This
Thank
is
you
great.
so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.